Okay guys, it's time for us to create our color map. Now, the first thing you guys do is to go to the internet and find a head texture. You guys could try to find a free one in the internet here. Maybe Google has some good free head textures for you guys. But if you can't find one that you like that's good quality, yeah, so if you guys go to Render Hub, you guys could purchase a texture. $2.99 is not bad at all. All right. You guys could go also to 3d.sk. Okay, so some really nice high resolution quality textures here. Of course, the higher the resolution, the better quality the texture is, more likely you have to pay for it. Okay, so this one is a good website to go to. And Texturing XYZ, that website, you guys could find some nice color maps here also. So think about this type of skin tone that you want and find the one that you like and go ahead and download it. All right. And this is basically what's done in the film industry, in the movie industry, where they take photos and they actually use that to project onto the character model. So it's very, very rare that you're going to see artists in the 3D industry, in the movie industry, to paint manually. Okay, so if you want a hyper-realistic render, you're going to need to use real photos, okay? Preferably really high-resolution photos, okay? And after you guys have downloaded your head texture, if you feel like you need to touch it up, let's say that you want to alter the skin tone to a lighter skin or darker skin, you could go touch it up in Photoshop, open in Photoshop, and you go to the layers here, and you could add an adjustment layer. You could add like curves, and you could adjust the skin tone to your liking. All right, look at your celebrity likeness and see what type of skin tone they have. You can even add a hue saturation here, and you could make the skin tone a little bit orangey or reddish if you want, okay, or more desaturated. Yeah, so if you guys need to touch it up, go do your thing in Photoshop. All right. Okay, so with that said, once you guys have your textures all ready to go, let's go jump into Maya. We're gonna put in our head 3D model, all the OBJ files that we have exported out of ZBrush. Remember those in the previous video? We're gonna put all those OBJ files in here in this Maya scene, and then later on we are gonna be going back to this scene and we're gonna be lighting and adding skin shader materials on here. All right, so let's go ahead and put in all our OBJ file here. Go import. Okay, OBJ. Import inner clothing, jacket, seat, eye strap, seams for the jacket, seams for the eye patch itself, head, and the buckle. Last but not least, the buckle. Okay, so we got all our meshes here, and what we need to do now is we need to scale this down, because I believe this is a little too big, the head. We need to make this real world size, because later on when we add our shader, we want it to be as accurate as possible. And to get accurate, realistic skin, you got to make sure that even the size of your character is real world size. All right. If you go to google.com, let's check out the average size of a human head. It's about 8 to 9 inches long. So that's about 21 centimeters. We could do 8.5, you know, around, yes, 21 centimeters would be fine. So let's go first check what units we're using. So go to preferences, settings. Yeah, so we are using centimeters. let's go create a box, and let's go ahead and move it to the side. Let's go to our channel, and let's set the scale in the Y direction to 21 centimeters. That's going to be the real world size of the head. And we go to the front view. Alright, so we could see that the head is definitely a little too big. So we're going to need to scale that down. Select all your geometry. And let's go ahead and scale it down. Alrighty then. Yep, still too big. Maybe something like this. Okay, I think that'll about do. That's fine. I think it's all good. Alright, delete the box. Okay, now that we have this real world size, what we're gonna do is we're gonna be creating a plane. Alright, and the plane is what we're gonna be adding our texture in so that we could have it wrap around our character's head. Okay, and then later on we're gonna take that 3D plane and we're gonna put it into the wrap program. So that's the wrap program is what is going to allow us to wrap it on our 3D head here, and it's going to be a good start for us for our texturing process. So let's create a plane, and let's just go and move it out. And for the plane, let's go to Attribute Editor, go to Polyplane here, and where you see Polyplane History, you're going to see the width and the height, right? I want you guys to go to your file, to your folder where you have your head texture, and you're going to right click on your head texture, go to Properties, and you guys go to the Details tab. You guys scroll down and you're going to see the dimensions. Okay, you're going to see, well, mine is 8,790 by 5,387. So take note of your dimension, because that same dimension is going to go to here. All right, so the width 8790 is going to be going here. The height 5387 is going to be going here. All right, so that way when we add our texture, everything is all good and dandy. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's size up our plane. 8790, 5387, and that's obviously really big. So let's go to our channel, and we gotta go to our scale XYZ and bring those three down to a lower number, and just make sure that whatever value that you have here, that they're all matching up for all X, Y, and Z. Okay, so highlighting everything, I'm gonna put 0.08. Okay, so that's smaller. Let's go and do 0.05. Okay, let's do another one. 0.007. There you go. And if you guys look to the attribute editor, you could see that still width and height is the same as my dimension here. Okay, so double check everything. And we could go and rotate this in the 90 degrees in the X direction. There you go. And scale it. All right. Now let's go ahead and add our head texture here on this plane, so we could use it as a reference. Let's go to the Hypershade. Okay, and let's go create a Lambert, and click on that Lambert on the color slot here. Let's add a file. And on the folder here, let's go add our head texture. Color. And yeah, right here. Open. And we could go ahead and assign that. Assign the Lambert to our plane. Right click, assign material selection. And to make it show on the viewport, let's click on show textured here. Okay, And what we need to do is we need to scale this down so that it's, when we visualize this plane wrapping around the 3D head, that it's going to fit in accurately as possible. All right. Now what I like to do is I like to look at the ears to make sure it's the same size as the 3D head here. I also like to look at the lips as I scale. And we could also go to show, turn off selection highlighting so we're not seeing the wires as we scale down. All right, and we could even kind of move it closer, see what we're working with here. All right, okay, I think that's all good. All right, so make sure that once you are done scaling and everything that you move it out and make sure it's not touching the 3D head. You want it to be floating in front, not touching the nose or anything. All right. Okay, so now we could bring back our selection highlighting. Now we need to subdivide this, add more resolution. Okay, we need to add more resolution so that when we have it wrap around the 3D head, it will wrap around it with no issue. Okay, so let's go to the attribute editor and we gotta add some more resolution for the width and height. And before we do that, this is very important. You see where it says create UVs here? We have to click on the drop down arrow, make sure that you turn on normalization off. Okay, that way when we change our width and height and increase the value here, that our texture will remain as it is showing on the plane the way it's supposed to be. Okay, so make sure, very important, that you have normalization off. All right. Okay, all right, now let's go ahead and set the subdivision to about 200 for width and height. Okay, I think this is enough resolution for it to wrap properly around the head when we take it into the wrap program. And let's click off, make sure that the texture is still good. All right. Okay, so now we could go ahead and export out our plane. Go to File, Export Selection, and we go to Wrap, and just export as an OBJ file. And also, since we have scaled down the head, we need to make sure that we export this out also. We're gonna take the plane and our head inside the wrap program here. Okay, so selecting the head, File, Export Selection, and I created a new folder here. It's called Resize OBJ. So because I have resized the OBJ file for the head, so I want a separate folder, so not to get confused with the other ones. I'm gonna go ahead and name this head new OBJ. Okay, now that we have exported out the plane and the head, let's bring those into the wrap program. Okay, let's go and hit the tab key here, geometry, load geometry. For this one, we're gonna call this plane. This is where we're gonna load our plane. Click on this button right here. Let's find our plane that we have exported out of Maya. All right, OBJ, wrap, and there you go. Okay, and for this one, we could just turn off wireframe so that later on when we add the texture, we could see the texture nicely. All right, and let's go ahead and add another load geometry here. Let's call this one base. This is where our base 3D model, our head is going to be. All right, so let's go ahead and put in our head here. Click there and make sure you put in the one that you scaled down in Maya. All right, okay, so the one that's the real world size, which is this. All right, for the head, I like to leave the wireframe on. Okay, some people like to leave it off, but I like to leave it on. I think it's easier for me to add the points where they're going. Okay, so now let's go ahead and put in a, we gotta add a texture here onto the plane. So to do that, let's hit the tab key again and go to image, load image. And for this one, we're gonna load our head texture that we could assign on our plane. Click here, and where is the map color? There you go. Just keep in mind that with this wrap program, it only accepts JPEG or PNG. So make sure that if you have a PSD file or a TIFF file, that you go to Photoshop and save it as a JPEG or PNG. All right. And there you go. And we gotta make sure that we link this to the plane. So click on this little output here, square, and then click on this. There you go. So now we could see the plane with the texture there. Okay. Now we need to create another node. Hit tab, go to selection, select points. Okay, this one is we're gonna bring the plane and the base together so we could sync them. If you hover your mouse over here, this is gonna be the left geometry, which is gonna be for the plane, and we have the right geometry, which is gonna be the right one here on the base. So let's go ahead and click and link those. Click, let go, drag, click. And we need to create a wrap node here. Go to alignment, wrapping. Okay, so for this one, we have the floating geometry. So the floating is always going to be the one that's going to wrap on the head, or the one's going to wrap on our character here. So that's going to be the plane. All right, that's what floating is. Kind of makes sense. It's floating in front of our character's head, right? So click here and then click there for floating. Yep. And then the next one is the fixed geometry. So the fixed geometry is going to be the base 3D model. Let's click here and link it to that. And last one is going to be for the points here. So we need to have the output for the point here link up to the point for the wrapping. All right. Okay. Now that we got our nodes, make sure that you select the select point node. Let's go to the visual editor. And right now it's not sync. All right. We're going to have to turn on sync view. All right. So we could see them syncing as we rotate. As we are doing the front view and adding points for the front view, we needed to have it sync. All right. But later on, if we do the ears and start creating points for the ears, obviously this is going to be a problem. So what we're going to need to do when it's time for us to do the ears, we need to turn off the sync view. So we could basically do this and then do that and then, you know, create our points from there. Okay. All right. So starting out with syncing, because we got to do the front of the face. Let's go ahead and start adding our points. So just make sure that they are matching up from the location of the texture and onto your 3D model. So here and here, make sure the value is also the same. You could easily get lost with this. So just double check everything if you want this to calculate properly. So you see one is here and one is there, 0 is 0, 0, 0. Make sure it's all matching, all right? Like here, here. And here, 3 and 3. Okay, and this one here, 4 and 4, 5 and 5. Yeah, sometimes I have to call this out myself so that I am not missing any number. And I don't want to do this while you guys are listening to me because it will get annoying if I'm counting numbers here. So I'll try my best not to do that. Okay. Now for here, let's do the bottom of the eyebrow here. That's gonna be around this area, and for an eyebrow here, that's gonna be roughly about here. So 9, 9, and let's do the nose. Bottom of the nose, bottom of the nose. Yeah, you're trying to make this as accurate as possible, guys. Right? I mean, if you don't, it's good to make accurate, but you know, if there's any issues later with this, we could fix it in ZBrush if there's a problem with our texture, okay? Which we will most likely do. 12 here and also there. And on the other side. Could do the nose also here. And what I like to do is I like to think about the corners, what defines the shape of the model, and then I like to have those numbers around those critical points that shape out the features of the face. Okay. And let's go ahead and do the lips. And of course, corner of the lips. He does have really big lips. I think his lips a little bigger than Samuel Jackson, but it's all good. Okay, and this one here. Okay, I'm gonna take a minute just to see that everything is the right number and they're all matching up, because sometimes I could miss some stuff here. Alright, so yeah, numbers are matching up. Yep, numbers are matching up so far. I gotta pat myself on the back for this. And here, 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 and here. Alright. Now, to do this in here. Okay, and here you go. We could do also the side of the chin. And we could do a little bit on the forehead here. So for the forehead, good, click there, match up, have it, make sure that it's matching up around there. Maybe also the corners here and there. Okay, and also we could work with the cheek here. We could also do the jaw. And okay, I think it's time for us to do the ears. So for the ears, we need to make sure that we turn off sync views. Alright, so we are looking at the ear from here and the ear from here. Alright, now ear could be tricky. So we could try to do the round area here, the helix. You're gonna probably need, yeah, quite a few points for the ears here in order for it to match up. Yeah. You're probably not going to remember the points that you're adding exactly here on this side and compared to the other side of the ear, but it's fine as long as you try to have the points follow the shape of the ear as much as possible. And this one could be this one. Alright. Yeah, let's go ahead and do the other side now. And then we gotta do the shape, the prominent shape here. Yeah, the shape of Samuel Jackson's ear, it definitely looks different from the shape of his ear. So Samuel Jackson's ear is a little bit on the pointy side. Okay. Yeah, okay, well, this needs to be a little bit here. Alright, and this to this. This to this. Okay, and maybe we could put this here and this here and here and make sure it's there. Okay, I think this should be good to go. Let's see. I think I want to go to sync views again, and I want to add something right around here in the middle of the nose. So maybe click here and there. Alright, I think we are really good to go for this. So now let's click on the wrapping node here. Okay. And we're gonna click on the compute button. Okay. Let's go ahead and click on that and watch it wrap around the character's 3D head. Okay, so I think that took about 5 minutes here and it's all done. We could look at our wrapping. See, we go to our viewport 3D here. Alright, so now you could see that it's been wrapped. We could hide our plane. Alright, we could hide our base head. And there's our 3D model, our plane that's been wrapped on the character's 3D head. Okay, and it's not bad. The ears need some work, but we could fix that in ZBrush. Okay, you could, if you don't like it the first time, you could also always just redo the wrapping. All right, but I'm okay with this. Any other issues, I'm just going to just do a little bit of projection, some touching up in ZBrush software program. All right. Okay, so now let's go ahead and save this out. We need to save this nice wrapped mesh. Okay, so let's go and add a save geometry node. Hit tab, hit tab. Okay, it was a little being stubborn a little bit. Okay, and we could go ahead and add a geometry, save geometry node. All right, and let's go ahead and link this to the save geometry node, and let's go to the file name and click on this little button. Go ahead and save it wherever you want to save. Oh, not it. Oh, Samuel Jackson. Maya. Okay, I'm just gonna go ahead and OBJ and go to wrap folder. This is where I'm gonna save it, keep things organized. I'm gonna call it plain underscore because it's already been wrapped, and why not call it plain wrap, and hit accept, and just make sure to click on compute current frame. Okay, and in the next video we are going to take our wrapped here, our wrap plane, and also we're gonna be taking our base mesh here into ZBrush. Those two things we're gonna put into ZBrush, and then we're gonna do some fixing on our texture. Alright, we're gonna do a little bit of projection, and yeah, see you guys.